And now I know that you're as anxious as I am to find out what actor has won the Oscar.
What makes you think I do?
The winner is...
And I looked in the program, who's that guy? Marlon Brando.
He was like a hero.
Man of incredible intelligence.
He erupted and electrified the audience.
He was a strange man.
Brando had such an enormous effect on the psychology of men.
He's the greatest film actor that I've ever seen.
Well, Marlon, you've had a pretty good year, but I suppose success can have its problems too, can it?
Marlon Brando will not appear in this movie.
Good evening, everybody. It's now the 11 o'clock hour.
Movie star Marlon Brando looked distraught.
Tragic love affairs, the most public child custody battle in Hollywood history.
He has not realized who he's dealing with.
He's fucking with her.
I imagine you're just a bit proud of your son right now, aren't you?
Well, as an actor, not too proud, but as a man, why, quite proud.
My old man was tough. He was a bar fighter. He was a man with not much love in him. This is a picture, a portrait of my mom when she was about, how old was she, Pop?
About 40.
About 40. Staying away from home, drinking and whoring all around the Midwest. He was a very bumpkin artistic woman. He used to slap me around, and for no good reason. I miss her very much. He couldn't understand how this ne'er-do-well son of his could possibly do that. If I have a scene to play, and I have to be angry, there must be within you trigger mechanisms that are spring-loaded, that are filled with contempt about something. I can remember my father hitting my mother. I was 14. I didn't want my father to get near Christian. The day he was born, I said it to myself with tears in my eyes in the hospital. My father is never going to come near that child because of the damage he did to me. I sort of regarded acting as a means of making a living, and not much more. I was interested in other things.
After getting expelled from the Shattuck Military Academy for riding a motorcycle in school halls, and then getting rejected by the military itself, Marlon Brando came to New York to try out his luck in acting, where he came across the Broadway stage and met Stella Adler.
The play has nothing to do with words. You do not act words, you act with your soul. Speak out the thoughts that are tormenting you.
In the theater, the actor is the boss.
But there is nothing bigger than his sense of creation.
When Brando hit, it was like dynamite.
He was excellent.
He gave the most terrific first reading and cool reading I've ever saw.
He would do almost nothing, and suddenly, bang. Explode.
Yeah.
And the audience waited for Marlon to come on stage every time because he was so funny.
Why did you not come back to the Broadway stage after Streetcar?
All the plays are in him. All is in him. And he has made a choice. It's either life or theater.
It's not that I didn't like it.
It's either life or being killed every night, murdered, slain, devoured, miserable, dedicated. And that's the life of the actor.
I hated it.
It is not glamour. It is not money.
It's much tougher than the movies because you have to do it every night.
It is serving the play and the public and giving everything to art.
It was the worst experience I ever had in my life. I almost went out of my mind. Listen, everybody in this life is an actor.
When did the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept?
You.
Yes, my president.
What is your name?
Brando, as a man who fought twice.
Ambition should be made of sterner stuff.
Emiliano Zapata.
We couldn't survive a second if we weren't able to act.
Which he did thrice refuse.
My brother, the general.
Was this ambition?
I don't like the way you're looking at me.
What cause withholds you then to mourn for him?
Acting is a survival mechanism.
And he became a general, fighting for many years and killing many of your enemies.
Oh, judgment, thou art led to brutish feet, and men have lost their reason.
He was already being acclaimed as the greatest American film actor ever.
The winner is...
When On the Waterfront burst on the screen.
I was a nervous wreck.
From the point of view of a screenplay, I think perfect.
It's one of the greatest Hollywood dramas ever made.
It wasn't him, Charlie, it was you.
An actor of very considerable talent.
He wanted my philosophy of life.
And the rest more or less is history.
Do it to him before he does it to you.
Marlon Brando On the Waterfront.
The youngest actor ever honored in this way.
It's a wonderful screenplay.
This ain't your night. My night, I could have taken Wilson apart.
This scene has become identified as one of the supposedly great scenes in cinema or something.
When I saw the picture finally, I was so embarrassed.
It's much heavier than I imagined.
You was my brother, Charlie. You should have looked out for me a little bit.
With a wonderful actor.
Harry Malloy, played wonderfully by Marlon Brando.
So disappointed in my book home.
It didn't seem like the film that came out of that system.
There are times I know I did much better acting.
Why is this scene so remembered? Why is it quoted so much?
You don't understand. I could have had class.
Well, number one, because of Marlon's talent.
People will mythologize you. I could have been a contender.
Number two, it's...
The audience does the work. I could have been somebody. They are doing the acting.
It's almost a love scene between two brothers.
Everybody feels like they're a failure. Instead of a bum, which is what I am. Let's face it. Everybody feels they could have been a contender.
And it worked out well.
I've always in my life had a strong sense that I had to be free. I spent most of the time up in the library reading the National Geographic magazine about Tahiti. Most actors want to get their name in the paper. They like all that attention.
I'll tell you another thing. I used to love to ride on trains.
How wonderful it was. Drive around on his motorcycle with just a t-shirt on. They had unmanaged faces, no manicured expressions.
When I'd ride on trains, I used to love to stand in the vestibule of the car and listen to the rails.
Some small club in the black section of town.
I very often am struck with the illusion of success.
A kindness. That's where I want to go. That's where I want to be.
And I'll stop to listen to the rails, and I'll just spend a minute there listening to this.
I had fallen in love with Tahiti. It was everything I longed for, everything I hoped it would be.
Sometimes it's difficult when you meet people because you see that they've prejudged you, not to be treated normally.
And I was screaming when they were playing those drums. This is my moment.
And I'll be there kind of lost in the feeling of the rhythm. To have people staring at you like an animal in the zoo.
I'm going to take this moment. The sky, I've never seen a sky like it.
Or some strange creature from a distant land.
And the sunsets defy words.
I often get, caught like that. It's kind of silly.
What it does is remove you from reality. That was wonderful. I can't stand it. I hate it.
And
you got the message.
When I made Mutiny on the Bounty, finally I got a chance to go to Tahiti.
Spadoodly-dits. They don't care who you are. They don't care what you do. If they know me, if they recognize me.
I'd hear that shit. It just is to take me to another land.
They don't know that you're a movie star.
They couldn't care less.
That they saw Marlon Brando in red underwear in between the vestibule of the train.
You cannot lay dollars down on the table and buy their soul.
Doodly doodly doo doo doo. If I have come closer to a sense of peace, free at last.
And retreated for months at a time to a South Pacific island.
Free at last. Would be there. Thank God Almighty, free at last.
Can I move on to your own acting career and how your own moral beliefs have affected it?
I'm Vincent in your face.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brando.
For example, we associate you with roles like On the Waterfront, where you are a man who is fighting a righteous cause.
We'd like to see you in Chicago.
We? Is that the collective we, or is that...
And then there's the roles like the rebel leader in Viva Zapata, where you are for the poor.
There are many people who would like to see you in Chicago.
But you don't want to do it.
Certainly I do.
Do you deliberately choose these roles?
You're one of the prettiest interviewers that I've...
Over your career, you've deliberately chosen roles that have gone along with your political beliefs?
Past a certain point, the penis has its own agenda. It has nothing to do with you. Yes, I think so.
Do you think that you, as a film star, as an actor, who's made his name and his fame in the field of entertainment, has the right to devote himself to propaganda, no matter what the cause?
You have what most men want.
I don't like the use of the word propaganda.
You have a lady to fuck.
But I think I haven't the right not to do it.
You have a woman who loves you. You have a...
My personal ethic is such that I feel that one must do it.
There was some headlines in one of the papers yesterday that you have stepped out of a motion picture that you were going to do with Elia Kazan.
Very tough decision to make. Mutiny on the Bounty was perhaps my very worst experience in making a motion picture.
He was my biggest crush, my idol.
We were really addicted to each other.
If one cares anything about the country, I never want to do that kind of picture again as long as I live. If one cares anything about continuing and creative dialogue between people.
Addictions are very, very difficult to get rid of.
Marlon Brando has been a subject of a good deal of controversial publicity.
I think one must make one's feelings known. There was a great deal of friction, and King got shot.
Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight. Remember?
And I wondered what it meant to me that he's dead. Confusion and desperation.
Marlon was a horribly damaged person by the time I met him.
And disappointment and disgust. And his last act was trying to get a 15-cent wage increase for garbage men. There were fist fights. I know Marlon. And he said that he'd been to the mountain and that he'd seen the promised land.
He's been called a supreme egotist.
I don't know if I'm going to get there with you.
He was something unbelievable.
But it doesn't matter about me.
Marlon is very erratic.
I know we're going to get there.
I would like to live.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Long life, longevity.
He was shot dead the next day. And I thought somehow this has got to matter.
I'd like to show you a wedding picture. A wedding that took place on October 11th, 1957.
We've got one last chance as white people to straighten things around in this country.
Uncooperative, temperamental.
The man is Marlon Brando.
And if we don't do it soon, and if we don't do it massively...
And we sort of concocted this image of Brando.
During that period, I fell in love with him.
That he was just kind of nuts.
Then we got married.
The woman, a young Indian actress and a model on a cash fee.
This is all insane.
I've rarely seen such a range of vicious critiques.
I'm getting paid.
You had to just keep taking away problems that he had created in order to put the work on.
You're getting paid. None of the scripts make any sense, so why worry?
As soon as I was able to make my own decisions and carry on with my own life, he didn't like that independence.
You talk about his bringing home a young woman that he was having an affair with while you were married.
Yes.
Marlon Brando's son, Christian, has been kidnapped.
He is not a good family man.
Marlon Brando told me, Mr. Arms, we want him found.
A child needs discipline.
We want him brought back to Los Angeles, no matter what it takes.
He needs schooling.
Arms flew into Mexico in a helicopter.
How far he can go.
And recovered the 13-year-old boy.
What to do, what not to do.
Why did they say they had him there in the first place?
Marlon is not that kind of a disciplinarian.
Because Anna, being the mother of the boy,
promised him $10,000 to hide him out from Marlon Brando.
This is complete insanity.
Unwanted headlines as his personal life crumbled. For the very private Marlon Brando, his child custody battle with his first wife, Indian actress Anna Cashby, became national news. The public spotlight was once again painfully bright.
It's going to be Armageddon.
Dealt with some very, very difficult actors in my life.
It was more than just a battle, it was a war.
It's going to be guns.
But I have never, ever dealt with somebody like Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando's love affairs had almost always created serious problems.
It's going to be thousands of people killed.
Actress Rita Moreno attempted suicide when their relationship failed.
We will have reduced ourselves as a nation.
Pina Pellicer did kill herself in 1964.
And our stature as a people, importantly.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Evans.
The 60s were a kind of scary time for Hollywood.
In the 30s, 40s, and 50s, Paramount was one of the great legendary studios.
And I'm Senior Vice President of Paramount Pictures.
All these early pioneers were leaving the studio.
But by the time you get to the 1960s, it really was the bottom of the top 8.
The studios were being sold to large corporations.
Would you believe that Paramount was bought? The entire studio was bought for $600,000.
To be a film student at that time was to have a little mark of Cain on your forehead, that you were not welcome.
These past few years have been rough for Hollywood.
There had been some big failures of films that had traditionally been very successful.
I've never seen public taste change as quickly.
1969 or 1970 was the year of lowest movie attendance ever.
Charlie Bluhdorn was the head of Gulf Western, which was a giant conglomerate who had bought Paramount. He was a very dynamic entrepreneur, buying and selling companies.
Some people believed that it was the end of movies as we knew it.
We've made a lot of mistakes.
Charlie told me they're going to close the studio down.
I could go on for an hour and tell you about 20 or 30 projects that are in various stages of development and bore you with it. So I won't.
There was an idea that we could do something different than what was being done in Hollywood.
And I said, give me a chance to go and make a presentation to the board.
But I want to bring up one project, and that's The Godfather.
The Godfather casting, especially for the character of Vito Corleone, was difficult.
Who do you want to play The Godfather?
And so when we looked at the various actors who could play the part, there really weren't any that we felt had the charisma or the mystery that could do it.
I was told by the president of Paramount Pictures.
So I concluded, who are the two greatest actors in the world? Well, there was Laurence Olivier and there was Marlon Brando.
I want Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando will never be in a film by Paramount.
Marlon Brando was only 47.
The studio didn't want Brando.
But Marlon Brando had another problem.
Marlon Brando will not appear in this movie.
Considered very troublesome, and his last few pictures had been big flops.
If you put Marlon Brando in The Godfather, and I forbid you, as president of Paramount,
it would do less business than if you put a totally nobody in it.
To bring his name up again. At which time I fell on the floor in a faint, and I I did it deliberately, and they said, what? I said, well, if I can't even talk about it, then what kind of director am I?
So they said, all right, we'll give you 3 conditions for Brando to be in the picture. Number 1,
he does the film for free.
2, he must do a screen test.
How was I going to get Marlon Brando to do a screen test?
And number 3,
he puts up $1 million bond, so if any misbehaving on the set happens, he is underwritten.
I said, okay.
I said, I accept. I made a date with him to go to his house.
Basically, Mr. Brando, this character is an Italian. Maybe you'd like to experiment a little to see if you can play.
Yes, that was going to be the screen test. And the door opens and out walks this beautiful man with long blonde hair and a Japanese robe. And I'm shooting him. And I say, good morning. And, he sees what I'm doing. Now, one thing about Marlon, he is like one very, 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 very intelligent man. So he kind of got the drift of what I was doing.
Took his long hair and he kind of put it up behind his head and pinned it in.
And he took shoe polish and he made it black.
He says in the book he gets shot in the throat, so I think you should talk, it's like,
And he puts, then he says he takes some tissue paper and he says, this should be like a bulldog. He said, and he puts it in. And I'm shooting and we're all shooting and he starts going, and I'm amazed because this transformation is happening. It was a miraculous transformation from this handsome guy with a ponytail into this Italian guy like my Uncle Louis. And it was the birth of that character. And I went to the office of Gulf and Western. Charlie Bluthorn was the head of the company, and he was the big boss. I said, well, look at this. And I turned on the tape recorder, and there is Marlon Brando with this long blonde hair rolling it up. And Charlie Bluthorn said, no. I told you, absolutely not. Marlon Brando, As he watched and saw this transformation, he said, that's incredible. When he said that's incredible, and it was incredible, I knew that if Charlie Bluthorn okayed it, then it would okay, and that's how he got the part. And of course, Brando, to this day, is thought of for that role.
The winner is
accepting the award for Marlon Brando, The Godfather, Miss Shasheen Littlefeather.
I'm representing Marlon Brando this evening.
There was an opportunity.
The treatment of American Indians today by the film industry.
We've got one last chance. It's going to be Armageddon.
That he very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award.
I felt that it was a marvelous opportunity for an Indian to be able to voice his opinion to 85 million people. They should have at least had the courtesy to listen to her. They didn't want her there. They didn't want the evening interrupted with that particular note.
No, but good heavens, you can control your life.
I can't change the hole in the atmosphere,
No,
dear.
but you can control your life, and
No, you can't.
You decide.
That's the biggest joke that you've made today. Nobody controls their life. Misery has come to my house.
Movie star Marlon Brando looked distraught as he watched his handcuffed son enter the courtroom.
On the night of May 16th, something happened to Christian Brando.
32-year-old Christian Brando was charged with first-degree murder and illegal possession of firearms.
He has admitted he shot his sister's boyfriend to death at the Brando home.
Some people have reported that Christian is the spoiled son of a rich and famous man. What would be your comment to that?
When it comes to my son and my children, you're speaking to someone that has a different impulse. Because either they're a lying son of a bitch or that they don't know what they're talking about. This is the Marlon Brando case. If he was black, if he was Mexican, or if he was poor, he wouldn't be in this courtroom.
Christian Brando should have been tried for first-degree murder in the shooting of Dog Drolet.
And he says, I killed Dag.
They say they made a deal to reduce the charges.
He's dead, Father. I didn't mean to do it. He went for the gun and it went off.
Only when they failed to get their key witness, Marlon Brando's daughter Cheyenne, to testify. We learned that the victim, Dog Drolet, was an island sports champion. It was his fame as a motorbike racer that attracted Cheyenne Brando, one of French Polynesia's most sought-after beauty.
I said, what are you talking about? He said he's dead.
Earlier this month, she brought her Tahitian boyfriend with her.
And I looked at him and went right in the other room where Dag was, and I'm not lying.
And it was a trip from which Dog Drolet would never return.
I swear to Christ on Tookie's life and his soul. saw Dag lying there. I think that perhaps I failed as a father. I'm certain there were things that I could have done differently had I known better at the time.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Now, no matter what happens to his son's case,
another personal tragedy for actor Marlon Brando.
No matter what the future of his half-Polynesian daughter,
his 25-year-old daughter Cheyenne has committed suicide at her home in Tahiti.
For Marlon Brando, Tahiti will never quite be the same again.
In what context was the line said, I could have been a contender?
Do you mind being 65?
Not at all.
I don't have to give you this gentleman's qualifications as an actor.
I'm happy now I ever was in my life.
Why are you happy?
Don't know. Those are the mystery questions that one never answered.
I think he is probably considered by other actors and people in the entertainment profession as probably the greatest actor of our time.
If I knew the answer to that, then I'd be the wisest man on earth.
I admire him for that. I also admire Marlon Brando for his conscience as an American and his moral commitment when he believes in something.
I could have made a lot of money, maybe $200 million, I'd say, but I had no interest in it.
The winner is...
You had no interest in acting in a movie after movie after movie.
The winner is...
The years.
No, that's a waste of life. It's a waste of time.
Will you welcome, please?
I don't find it stimulating or... Our guest tonight. It's not a consuming passion. Special guest is Marlon Brando.
Mr. Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando on the Waterfront. Marlon Brando in The Godfather.
Don't you realize that your father is the greatest actor ever?
What's the difference? See, that's a part of the sickness in America, that you have to think in terms of who wins, who loses. Who's good, who's bad, who's best, who's worst. We always think in those terms, in the extreme terms. I don't like to think that way.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
I could have been a contender.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Instead of a bum, which is what I am.
It doesn't make that much of a difference whether you're fat or thin in life. It's just that if you're a good person.
You want me my philosophy of life?
Life is a mystery, and it's an unsolvable one. You just simply live it through. And as you draw your last breath, you say, what was that all about?